CFR Network, CFR News. Welcome back. Good day, good night. Niha, Wasalam, Ashe, all of the universal greetings. Brought the build again very much locally for a very important topic and issue that's taking place and an event. I welcome Desmond Jaddoo, community activist, bishop, and running for the West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner. Welcome to the broadcast, Desmond.
Hi, and good afternoon to you, and thank you for having me.
You're very much most welcome. As we were previously discussing, your title is of bishop. Could you just give a breakdown of the difference between a bishop and a pastor and what that entails?
I mean, initially, let me just tell you about my position initially. I am Deputy Presiding Bishop for the Vision Temple of Praise, which is a small Pentecostal church. And one of the things is with that, we have a presiding bishop. And as I've said, I'm his deputy. Now, importantly, a bishop is what we could call a father of fathers. That means that you are there and you're not just there to oversee the flock, as it were. You oversee the pastors as well. So the responsibility of a bishop is far more taxing than even a pastor, because one of the things is when a pastor requires that guidance as well, you have to be there for them. And it's not just a title, it carries immense responsibility. I think we were talking before about, is it just within the denomination? Well, I see my becoming a bishop an appointment from God. And importantly, I don't see myself being stuck to my denomination, because there are people who are from other denominations and people who are also non-Christians who will actually look up to you. But remember, a bishop is consecrated and is a senior member of the clergy who's entrusted with that position of authority and oversight. And importantly, I don't see a bishop just being there for its diocese or its denomination. You are supposed to be there for everyone if you're appointed by God. So I hope that helps.
Definitely, that clears it up, and from what you've outlined, I think that should be encompassed, as you say, based upon the position. This is a position anointed by the Most High, so it shouldn't. I understand we have our own cliques of sorts or denominations, but it's for the people.
I'll tell you one thing about my consecration, which was a blessing. You have to lie down prostrate, lie on your face at the altar, and the Spirit of the Lord should be upon you. And when you rise up, then the fellow ministers, I think we had about 15 bishops at my consecration and about 20 pastors, and they each come and pour oil over my head. And if I say to you 15 minutes after they stopped pouring oil was still flowing off my head.
Wow.
So, I'll just leave that there.
Yeah.
There were people there who witnessed it, and, the oil was just pouring. But that's a blessing, and I give God thanks for that, because it's actually made me a much stronger and better person.
Most definitely. Faith without works is a death. So,
Indeed.
we have to do more than just the usual stuff. We actually have to manifest things in the physical realm by actually working.
But let me say it for you. It's not just about preaching a sermon on a Sunday from the pulpit.
Yes, indeed.
So there you go. I said
it. Straight to the point. I like it.
Well, what else can I say? One of the things is we have to be real. Okay. And if we're not real people, then who are we?
We are portraying a persona so many times of the day, rather than just being, as you say, yourself and being real.
As many people will tell you who know me, I'm like the Marmite kid, all right? You either love me or you hate me. And I have grown to understand that, because as many people say, Desmond Jaddoo's doing good work. There's a lot of people there saying he's only out for himself. He likes to be in the newspaper. He likes to be in the media. But the thing about it is, at the end of the day, they miss the point, and the point is this: really, how many people have we got out there standing tooth and nail, being battered for standing up for our community?
Exactly. We need 10 of you, if not
We
100 of
need
you.
more.
Yeah,
I'd love for there to be thousands of us,
exactly. Exactly.
because you know what? It lightens the load. I had a look
Most
at my hair this morning when I just made a quick video outside, and I looked at my hair on the replay, and it, with the sun shining on it, it looked bright grey.
that's wisdom. That's wisdom, Desmond.
I was thinking about going back to the 1970s, what I saw my dad do, and get at the Grecian 2000.
Mm,
I
I know
wouldn't do it. I
you're
wouldn't
going
do it.
back there. Listen, I know exactly what you're talking about. Listen, that's wisdom, man. That's wisdom. The Most High has blessed you to be able to get to the point you are here in the physical state, in this three-dimensional state, and you've got a duty, you've got a calling to ultimately to try and uphold righteousness. And that is
Yeah.
in many different ways. And firstly, I should have said this on the outset. I commend the work that you're doing. As you've highlighted, people are saying, "Oh, you're just in it for yourself, and you just love the camera and all that." Okay, well, as you've said, you're on the camera discussing and highlighting problems within our community and trying to
Yeah.
bring forth a solution.
Yeah, it's all about, to be honest, Noble, it's about making a difference, okay? And that's it.
Hmm.
It's about making a difference. And if I'll be honest with you now, if I felt that my time has come and I'm unable to make a difference, and that's the time you hang your boots up. However, you need to pass the baton on. And everything I do now, I'm 54 now, and everything I do now, it's all about passing that baton on.
Hmm.
Because recently we formed a political party called We Matter, and that was the Electoral Commission. Just in time for the elections, the Electoral Commission registered us. Now, that's not about me. That's about getting independent voices together
Hmm.
under an umbrella
Hmm.
for us to really work on making things better and brighter in our community. We lack representation. We lack representation around decision making tables. Windrush, and in my capacity as chair of the Windrush National Organisation and Windrush Movement UK, Windrush came about because of a lack of representation. And I'll tell you why quickly. Because if we had people around decision making tables who can say, well, hang on a minute,
Mm.
there's an issue here. Let's resolve what could become a burning issue first. No one bothered with that. It was all ploughing ahead for spin and euphoria and point scoring.
Yes.
Vans going around telling
Yes.
people, go back to where you came from,
Mm.
not recognizing the insensitivity, or probably recognizing it. I don't know. The insensitivity of that, because that's what my parents were told when they came here.
Of
Go back
course.
to where you came from. And I'm sure your parents or grandparents, whoever came
Yes.
here first, they
Hmm.
were told the same thing.
You
They
already
weren't
know.
made. Well, they weren't made to feel welcome in this country. We were cocooned. We were told what to do, even politically with our votes. We were told, I remember my dad, my mom, and uncles, aunts. I mean, the best one I can give you are my uncles. Three of them worked down the coal mines in Nottinghamshire.
Hmm.
They've all died now, but they all worked down the coal mines. And when they went there and started, the first thing they're told is, you will join the union, because it's a
Yes.
closed shop agreement. So they all
Yeah.
joined the NUM,
Hmm.
right? And when they joined the NUM, they were then told, you pay some of your money that you pay us will go to the Labour Party.
Labour
And you will
Party.
vote Labour.
Mm.
So we were told what to do. We were conditioned. Our freedom of mind wasn't allowed, if you get what I'm driving at.
Oh
And
yeah, it
that's
was curtailed.
contributed to where we are today.
Hmm. Most definitely, most definitely. And we've unfortunately relied and thought of, okay, well, this person who's running sounds like he's saying the right things, and we've historically voted for Labour, so maybe we should continue doing this because he's going to make the change, rather than as you say, as other communities, other nations do. They put people in the position as as a leader within the Conservative or the Labour Party to have that representation. So that power can then filter back into the community.
That's right. And unfortunately, I mean, where I live, the great city of Birmingham, the great city of Birmingham.
Hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. People from our community, people from the Caribbean, for example, have been here for in excess of 70 years. Not just, post Windrush, but if we just look at the post Windrush era, 22nd of June 1948,
Hmm.
we still ain't got a black. When I say black, I mean African or
Yes.
Caribbean MP in this city.
Hmm. Which is ridiculous.
That speaks volumes. We've got the Labour Party that will boast, right? The Labour Party now, Birmingham, out of 10 MPs, 2 are Conservative, 8 are Labour. The Labour Party will now boast they have 4 BAME MPs, and that is correct. And as far as they're concerned, they're doing well. Well, hang on a minute. There's no one there who's African or Caribbean. There's no one there. And when I see people getting down on one knee for Black Lives Matter,
Yes.
come on, my brother.
Mm.
It didn't take George Floyd dying for did it really take George Floyd dying for people to recognize that Black Lives Matter?
Apparently so. That apparently so. And I
Well,
think
sorry,
what
go on.
with the current situation in regards to the lockdown at the early stages of what it was, everybody was stuck in their house. Everybody
Mhm.
was stuck in the house. Everyone was on social media, and this spread. And the media, for some reason, because we know that George Floyd isn't just the only person. We had Breonna Taylor. We've had a plethora of people around before, prior, and it's still taking place now. And the media will selectively choose somebody who's been publicly lynched, modern day lynched, to present to the masses for nefarious purposes, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, look, right? I did an interesting thing the other day. Somebody got the ballot paper. They rang me up and said, Desmond, I can't see your name on the ballot paper. And I said, it's there. And what our people have become accustomed to, yeah,
Hmm.
when it's become accustomed to, right, what it's become accustomed to is this. Um, they've become accustomed to seeing the emblem and not reading the name. Does that make sense?
Symbol rather than, yeah.
So um, it tells you what happens is as opposed to how can I put it? As opposed to finding out about the candidate. It's what I'm struggling here because I'm trying to find a reasonable way of putting it across
Yeah,
without
yeah.
offending anyone. As opposed to finding about the candidate, they just go with, I always vote Labour, I always vote Conservative, and that's it.
Yeah.
The fact that it could be a stuffed teddy bear with a rosette on it means absolutely nothing. And
Hmm.
it's then only after they let their representative, they say, oh, I don't know their name. Oh, what do they look like? Oh, I can't get hold of them. I've been to the surgery, they're not there. Who do I talk to?
Yeah.
Take a minute, even if it's a minute, to know who you're dealing with. How's that? It's not rocket science, is it?
Not at all. Especially when we've got pocket computers in our in our possession with the
That's
power of
right.
the internet. It, as you say, it literally takes a minute. 10, 15 years back when we didn't have access to this technology, you would actually have to ask people. You'd maybe need to go to your local council. You'd have to do some diligent research. Now you can pull your phone out. You can check if they're on social media. You can see what these candidates are all about, what they look like, what their potential views are, and make an informed decision.
That's right, and that's what you need to do, and this is what we're saying. So with this PCC election, which is coming up, we can see a lot of things happening on our streets. There's a lot of death on our streets. Our streets are covered in blood. Women don't feel safe. Children. are open for exploitation. Young girls are open for exploitation. The lads are open for exploitation in terms of county lines.
Yeah.
We've got from the cradle to the jail cell syndrome or the cemetery. We've got so many things going on. We've got the issues of disproportionality and discrimination, which includes race, but race is at the bottom of the discrimination table as opposed to being at the forefront of the discrimination table. We've got a lack of diversity in policing. The police don't look like the community it's supposed to be serving.
Exactly.
We've heard about so many commissions being set up on guns and gangs, set up on Black Lives Matter. But since taking one knee last year, what has changed?
Nothing. Not a thing. They're
And
they're placating us, Desmond.
well, many people have said, Desmond, you've entered the race quite late. And yes, I did. And one of the reasons was I was hoping that someone would be there standing to really have the zeal to make a difference. And all I heard have been buzzwords such as, I'm a supporter of Black Lives Matter.
Oh.
I'm tough on crime. I'm tough on stop and search. We're going to get knives off our streets. I know I support victims. You know, I want zero tolerance and I want the broken window approach. But on a recent hustings, I was asked, Desmond, what's your view on stop and search after people were quoting reports and everything? I said, well, I've lived it.
Exactly.
I said, I've lived it. I've lived the impact of knife crime. I've lived the impact on gun crime. I've lived the impact on disproportionality, mental health. I've lived the impact of a police officer saying to me, why are you driving such a nice car when I was in my teens? No, I've told you, I'm 54 years old. When I was 19, I was driving a car that was, 2 years old. That was purchased cash because I got a good job working for Birmingham City Council. But I was stopped. I was asked, how can you do that? I used to have my suits tailor-made at a shop in town. I used to wear shoes to work that cost me 100 quid. You know, I was told, where you get money from? You know, what business is that of a police officer?
Exactly.
You know, I worked in Lascelles following the disturbances in 1985. Disturbances, uprising, call it what we may. The facts are, at the end of the day, thanks to the actions of some police officers and the local community tension, we turned on our own community, burning down shops that we needed, burning down a post office that was desperately needed for people to get their money. But the facts are, at the end of the day, and yes, remember, we've had Scarman back in 81, we've had Macpherson, we had Julius Silverman in 1985 reporting on the Birmingham uprisings. Do you know what? That report's been buried.
But
But the issues that were back in 85 still exist today. There's another report by Josray Singh that talks about division in communities, that talks about tensions with the police, that talks about not enough input from the council. But guess what? They buried that report as well. That was the follow-up report that Birmingham did to the Macpherson inquiry, which was the inquiry into the death of Stephen Lawrence. But ultimately, even recommendations from the Macpherson report are relevant today because nothing has happened. And importantly, at a time when our youngsters, for whatever reason, are killing themselves, right? Because I do say whatever reasons, because some of these reasons can be quite trivial, but important to them.
Exactly. And that's the most important thing,
That's the word I want to, and I want to make that clear.
Yes.
To me, as a 54-year-old man, I will say that's quite trivial, but to them, it's the earth.
Yes.
And remember as well, our youngsters these days are driven by wants. They're driven by the want for money. They're driven by the want to have nice things, okay? And they're driven by and they want respect, okay?
Yes.
Now, they're driven by wants. And I think having aspirations is not a crime. It's how you go about it. But there are no opportunities for them to aspire the way in which they want. If they can't get a job, if they can't be trained to have a skill, and even if some that do, for example, if you imagine they go and train to be a plumber, but there are no plumbing jobs. Some will say, well, become an entrepreneur. What's an entrepreneur really? We got fancy buzzwords. The facts are that, open up a plumbing business. Not everybody wants to have their own business.
Well, also, not everyone can have their own business. Some people are not cut out to be a self-employed business owner. They have to work for somebody.
And you know what? I'm glad you said that, because I didn't want to sound I'm being horrible. But no, there are people out there who are workers. Remember, if we look at the body of Christ, putting my bishop's hat on now, not everyone can be the brain. Not everyone can be at the nerve center. Someone has to be the little finger. Someone has to be the thumb. Someone has to be the arm. Someone has to be the elbow. Someone has to be the upper arm. And that's the thing. We all can't do identically the same thing,
Play your
because then
parts.
you become lopsided. And that, you know, in a restaurant, I always ask this: who's the most important person in the restaurant?
The chef.
And everyone says the chef, the this, the that. And I say, no, the person who washes the plates and cleans up.
And presents the clean environment for people to do what they need to do.
And they say, well, isn't the chef important? I said, you went straight to the chef. But if the restaurant is dirty, the plates haven't been washed, and it's covered in mold, no one can function. Meaning that what you take for granted as being a non-essential job is the most important one.
Excellent points. Excellent points.
And that's the whole point. So me standing for Police and Crime Commissioner, Noble, the biggest barrier for me was a £5,000 deposit. Because we have to, if you stand as a local councillor, you don't have to pay a deposit. If you stand as an MP, you pay a £500 deposit. But to stand for Mayor or Police and Crime Commissioner, it's actually a £5,000 deposit.
What's the reason?
And that £5,000 deposit is a major barrier to democracy.
What is that basically a stumbling block then? Is that an intentional stumbling block? Why there's that huge division from 0 to 5 to 1,000% increase?
Well, let's put it like this. You said it again. Because at the end of the day, when Police and Crime Commission and local mayors came in under David Cameron, one of the things that David Cameron said, it's to ease access to democracy. It's so that a normal man in the street,
yes,
who thinks that they are capable, could become Police and Crime Commissioner, could become a mayor. But unfortunately, no one mentioned the £5,000 deposit. And that's an horrendous amount of money.
It really is.
You know, and if you don't get, I think it's 5% of the overall votes casted, you lose that deposit.
So in essence, it's a £5,000 gamble.
Yeah. And that's a lot of money.
Well, of course.
You know, and so therefore, this is why it's important. Because some people will say, because you know what our community is like at times, some people will say, well, he's only doing the big up himself. Well, you know what? At the end of the day, we have no representation now, my brother.
Facts. And we don't see any change. And unfortunately, I see things even worse than it was when I was a teenager or in my young 20s. The stop and search is even more pervasive. The reasons why people are being stopped and searched and then eventually being, you know, arrested and charged with something, it's just getting more and more. It's almost like rather than policing the community and being a part of the community, these policy enforcers are opportunists. They're walking around, oh, there's 3 black guys, let's search them. They must have something on them.
But that's nothing new, is it? I mean, that happened to us. I said I'm 54, aren't I? So that happened to us 35, 40 years ago.
SOS laws, yeah.
Yeah, it happened to us 40 years ago. So nothing has changed. And the thing about it is, when we talk about things like unconscious bias, right? What is unconscious bias? What is it? Because I know what it is. I know what it is. It's out and out discrimination. Because I hear, I keep hearing this issue of unconscious bias. And the facts are, at the end of the day, you know, what that does, it actually gives people the excuse to say, well, I'm not racist. I just have an issue with me in my subconsciousness.
Yes.
That's all it does. It doesn't.
S-
It doesn't alleviate the problem.
It softens the blow verbally. Oh, I'm not racist. I've got one of my best friends is black, Desmond. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I remember one time I was up Hagley Road and I was by the KFC and there was an issue on the bus, the number 9, I think it was, a black guy, and there was an issue there. And what he said was he couldn't. Um, driver said he couldn't come on the bus because his day saver was out of date or something like that, which it was. And in the end, he said to the guy, "You're racist." It was a black guy.
No, shit.
And he said to the driver, he's racist. So I intervened, went on the bus and said, look, mate, just go in there and go and buy one and he'll wait for you. He said, I don't want him on my bus at all. I said, all right. No, I said, it's a number 9, isn't it? So another bus will be coming very shortly. And, you know, here the driver. Oh, I'm not racist, mate. My girlfriend's Chinese. And I looked at, oh my God. You know, because what he was doing and what he said and his actions
Yes.
had no element of discrimination because the guy's day save was out of date.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, he's supposed to call the police, which he ended up calling the police. I got the guy off the bus. Here's the joke. He went into the shop to get some change because he had no change to pay his fare. Whilst he was there waiting for the police, another number 9 bus came. And guess what the chap did? Went in the shop, got change, and got on the other number 9 bus and went to town.
Went about his business.
You know, but the worst part of all of it was that, you know, this chap said, I'm not racist because my girlfriend's Chinese. And I looked at him and said, wrong answer.
You know?
You've got, because I actually explained to him, look, mate, you got nothing to defend. You're actually doing your job.
You was doing your job. Excellent points. Excellent points.
Right. I said the joke was you did your job right. You said to him, you can't come on here, that day saver's out of date, pay your bus fare, and you can come on the bus. You know, it's a crazy one, but sometimes, you know, what it is, we try to look, there's a bottom line here. Some people are nervous to talk about race. George Floyd's incident last year, his death rather, made us talk about race more. However, we forget what happens here in the UK because a young man from Kingshurst who moved to Torquay about 20 years ago, he died in a police cell 2 weeks before George Floyd died in Torquay.
You see what I mean by the selective media representation of what's going on?
Don't get me wrong, it made national media. There wasn't the outcry because clearly it was during, you know, an intensified lockdown period. But not the outrage, let's call it outrage. There just wasn't any. You know, I think, however, though, the George Floyd incident was very graphic, very emotional. But one of the things is that I find is when many of my fellow candidates for police and crime commissioner, not all of them can speak from any form of experience whatsoever. I think there's one who can in terms of victims, but the rest of them can't really speak with any open knowledge. And that's the thing, because one of the things is with me, I've been doing for a number of years. And I have been making a difference. Indeed, up to last year, during lockdown, 4 black men were subject to use of excessive force. We saw the issue of the 14-year-old young lad in Newtown that police were chasing and the police officer kicked him in his stomach. That same police officer, it was seen in the national media of when a chap on a bicycle, he accused him of stealing his own bicycle and he threw him on the car bonnet and he was punching him. That was in the national media. This is the same person who accused a black man of resisting arrest and broke his arm during a stop and search. But the chap had done nothing. And then this is the same officer again who tasered a black man for being nosy, for running down to the end of his road when there was a car crash. And look what happened. And he tasered him. That made national news as well. Importantly, I wasn't involved in the young lads one, but I know the mom and we offer the mom support if she needs it. However, I was involved directly in the other cases. That officer is now facing charge at Coventry Magistrates Court.
Excellent.
Now,
Excellent.
importantly, I want to make this clear as well. I'm not anti-police.
No, definitely not.
I'm not
Definitely not.
anti-police. I think actions which I've taken over the past, such as the Black Lives Matter incident in Coventry, when a police officer said to a mixed race chap, you know, are you going all Black Lives Matter on me? And he said, yes, I am. And he said, well, if I had a gun, you'd be the first one I'd shoot. That
What?
officer was disciplined because he's got to be shown the error of his ways. Nothing concerning race is a triviality. It is a serious issue. And it's a serious issue that must be challenged. And one of the things that I want to bring to let you know, Noble, is zero tolerance.
Mm,
And it's zero tolerance to all forms of discrimination in and outside of West Midlands Police. Not
100%
just
agree.
out here in the community,
Yeah.
but inside as well. Because remember, we've heard about glass ceilings. We've heard about the fact that people cannot progress beyond a certain pay grade in West Midlands Police.
Mhm.
We've seen the executive. We've seen the colour of the executive. It does not reflect the people of the West Midlands. We've seen that they have got one black ACC, Assistant Chief Constable. But the facts are, at the end of the day, you're telling me after so many years,
I know.
we've got nothing more reflective than that. They have got the balance of women right. Okay? They have. But important, but they could do better in other avenues as well. But you're telling me that black people, or Asian for that matter, just aren't capable?
They've got to show and prove, and trustfully, if you can get to where you need to get to in regards to this election, we can actually start to affect change.
Yeah.
That
One of
that's
the
that's the most important thing I'd say.
one of the things I want to address with you as well, although you've not asked me the question, but I think it's important for me to be upfront and address this, is that some people have actually said, well, if he gets there, will he switch? And I'm sure you've heard people comment in that way about other things previously.
Indeed.
That
But
man,
let's give some contextuality on that. Switch in what respect?
well, you talk all black now like you're supportive of the community. When you get there, you'll just sell us down the river
Yeah.
so that you can have personal gain and fame and fortune, as it were.
Hmm.
I mean,
Interesting.
look, for the past nearly 10 years, I've done what I've done, and people are shocked when I tell them the truth. No funding, no salary. We get one or two little donations. When I say donations, I mean very small. You know, you got some people who might give you 10. The biggest donation I've ever had is a gentleman heard me on my radio show and he brought £100 in.
Wow.
Okay. We hardly get any donations whatsoever. If someone rings me right now, we've got internet, we've got phone bills, we've got ink, we've got paper,
Mm,
we've got time,
yeah.
everything. We're not paid for anything. And with nothing at all, I do believe that a difference has been made. Now, do you really believe, after it's been ingrained in me, that it's about making a difference and it's not about being a Judas Iscariot, that I would switch? I don't think so.
Nah, I don't see it.
You're talking to a man, and I'm the only man, I think, who's been thrown out of a police station. Now, remember, the police like to keep many people from our community in a police station. Would you agree with me?
Of course, of course.
Well, I went to the Police and Crime Commissioner's office when it was at the temporary police headquarters at Aqua House with a meeting for Word for Weapons regarding the weapon surrender bins, and I was escorted off the premises at his instruction.
Interesting.
So, you know, I was escorted off the premises. But look, the bottom line is, I help people with equality and social justice. I took over from Maxie Hales as head of the Kingsley Burrell campaign. We did all that work then. We managed to, one police officer was dismissed.
Exactly. And
3 officers went to court for perverting the course of justice and perjury. They all got off, and I think the uniform got them off, in all honesty.
of course, of course. The evidence was there. The evidence was uncovered, the statements, and as you say, that
Yeah,
blue line.
we monitored all those statements. We put it together with the IOPC because I lodged a complaint myself and Maxie Hales. We put it together. We presented it to them. The IOPC saw it. It went to the CPS. who agreed to prosecute, and the jury found them not guilty. They went then to discipline, and 2 were found, well, one was found, so they said, to have lied. So they gave us a sacrificial lamb, who was the weakest link, in all honesty, out of all 3 officers. And he was dismissed. Now, we've had other issues as well following last year when we found that when the police use force, they fill in their forms, but their body cam footage wasn't checked to ensure that it concurs with the form. And in the taser incident, what we discovered was that the police officer's use of force form did not concur with his body cam footage. But guess what? It concurred with the victim, because I do say victim,
yes.
It concurred with what the victim said.
They should be that the police should. I don't know if this is you can answer this, but do all of the police have these body cams, and are they always switched on?
They're not. No, they are switched on when they're needed. But what we found is recently, body cam is not switched on at the initial point of contact. Now, the purpose of body cam, as many police officers will say, it's there to protect them and the members of the public. But I've had to been involved in incidents where I say to police officers, why is your body cam not on? I don't need to. I only need to switch it on to gather evidence. No, you do not. It's there to safeguard you and the public. As soon as you have public contact, turn it on. And I'll tell you this: if I'm elected, they will have their body cams on, or they will have to explain themselves.
Of course, because it's there to document the interaction, and it should be from the start of the interaction.
And do you know what? If it buries the suspect, then let it be.
Indeed.
But let it be done on truth, not conjecture.
Totally.
And that's the whole point. I'm supporting a chap whose arm got broken in Brindley Place. The police say that said that what they did, the police officer said he made a transaction selling cannabis. But guess what? The police officer didn't switch his body cam on until after he had his arm twisted up behind the chap's back.
Yeah.
That's when he decided to turn the body cam on.
Now, just look this based upon that statement, what you've just said, and that incident, even rather, to me, that's more of an indictment on the police officer, because the protocol, as we've just highlighted, is you're going to engage someone, you need to turn that camera on.
That's right. Switch it on. I see you selling cannabis. I'm a police officer. Oh, what's that? Click on straight away. I got nothing to hide, because I'm gathering evidence that you sold somebody a draw of weed.
Indeed.
And that's the thing, you know. But what we're talking about here is equality of access and equality in terms of justice. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about anything else. And that, importantly, that's what we're talking about. And one of the things we have to do now is be real. And that's why, for Police and Crime Commissioner, I have come up with varying plans, and I've got a 12-point pledge plan. And I've also got my first 100-day plan as well. Because you know what? At the end of the day, we need to hit the ground running.
Yes.
And just to go through this very quickly, some of the things is to create a robust policing plan with full public input. So you, Noble, and the rest of the community can have an input into it. And on a regional, not just on a regional basis, but on a local authority basis as well. Meaning if you live in Cov, there can be things specifically to Cov, because Coventry rather does not necessarily have the identical problems or issues to Dudley.
Excellent point. It can't be a blanket sort of brush to deal with all of the various places. You're 100% correct.
And hear this one. We need to recruit police officers to look like the community. So, you know, officers from ethnic minorities and female. So I intend to increase what we call try before you buy. Meaning that if you've got spare time, become a special constable. Because we know that although there is a small number of people that are Black and Asian who apply for to become police officers, the fallout rate during the selection process is quite immense. So clearly that needs to be addressed so people can become special constables first. And then if it's a case that they feel that they can make a difference, what they then do what they then do is they can be fast tracked to becoming police officers.
Well, I
Also,
think on top of that, Desmond, is I think we need to, within the communities, get the stigma away from the police, because a lot of people within our community, there's a major distrust in regards to the police. Never mind trying to affect change and become one of those people who you distrust.
yeah, well, that's the thing, because what we've got to do is that's how we're going to build trust and confidence, is by making the police more accessible. And another point is as well, in terms of trust and confidence, is we've heard the euphoria behind the police station closures. And what we're intending to do is to have what we call pop-up police stations. So if you imagine, for example, you've got the middle of a shopping neighborhood, there's a church there with a hall, for example, then we have something, we have a pop-up police station, I don't know, 1 day a week for 2 hours in that church hall. And that's police officers within that community, because people are saying, well, we don't even see a Bobby on the beat anymore.
Good point.
In
Very good
addition
point.
to that, the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner does not have surgeries at all. Bob Jones, when he was the first commissioner, did. I would reinstate those surgeries. I will have PCC surgeries, because how on earth am I going to know the temperature on the ground if I don't have staff that consult with the local community? And when I say local community, I'm not talking about, you know, community leaders. I'm not talking about community organizations. Whilst I've been talking to you, I've received an email from someone complaining yet again about the police. Really, a police and crime commissioner should be getting that. They can't deal with the operational issue, but they can say to the chief constable, what's happening here, please? Can you explain it?
Yes.
Creation of policing community charters. Increase trust and confidence through community input into policing. Ensure the observation and implementation of reflective governance in policing. I covered that when I spoke to you a little earlier. Lobby government for a fair share of our money. Now, let me make this clear. I don't care who's Metro Mayor. I don't care who's in government. We fight for the West Midlands, because once you're elected Police and Crime Commissioner, you are there to serve the community and not your own political party. Zero tolerance to all forms of discrimination. Ensure that the structure of the LPCC is also reflective of the West Midlands. And then develop action plans and invest in tackling from the cradle to the prison cell phenomenon, and develop proactive community policing by recruiting more police officers and PCSOs specifically, and this is the word, specifically for community policing. Now, those are some of my pledges. Now, what we've done as well is we've got our first 100-day pledge. So as you know, when President Joe Biden has just completed his first 100 days. And it's important that you let people know that you want to hit the ground running. So what we intend to do is to commence a development of a women's charter, a men's charter, children's and young people's charter, a faith charter, and a charter on race. Those are 5 different charters. But the importance is that we develop those charters through working with community organizations, working with community groups, and working with the community as well. And we have a commissioner that looks after those charters, that looks after the implementation of the charters and ensure good practice and ensure that they monitor what's working, what's not working, we deal with. Commence the Upfield Police and Crime Commissioner surgeries, set up our Safer Streets panel, not the public health approach, much bigger than the public health approach. You've heard us talk about getting young people training, young people being trained about job opportunities,
Yes.
socioeconomic factors, dealing with poor housing, poor street lighting, the environment. But that's in partnership with all the appropriate agencies as well. We then talk about setting up a task force to deal with what could be a summer of discontent, because there is a lot of tension out there as well right now. And appointment of non-political local authority commissioners, meaning you can become the commissioner for Coventry, but it's based on your skill, the content of your character, and not the colour of your political party. And also as well, the functional assistance, which I've described, one over the charters, one to address the issue of police conduct and want to address safer streets, you know, gun crime, knife crime, women feeling comfortable, feeling safe on our streets, child exploitation, for example, you know, all of that, looking at the issues facing men in terms of addiction, the stigmatism of mental health, and how the mental health issues are dealt with, because I still don't believe that enough has been learned since the sad death of Kingsley
Kingsley
Burrell,
Burrell.
let alone Mikey Powell.
You hit the nail on the head, and I think this quote unquote label that they've had out for the last few years, this care in the community, it's a bunch of nonsense. They're misdiagnosing people. They're sectioning people who don't potentially have any sort of real mental issues, maybe just be a little bit depressed, and they're woefully allowing people who are a danger to themselves and to the public to be out free as a bird and not have the time invested in them for them to heal and to become, you know, a quote unquote normal member of society.
That's right. And that's the thing. So the bottom line is, what I've got to say is this: on the 6th of May, if you want me to be having this conversation with Noble in 4 years' time, then stay at home, go out and vote the way you normally vote. Or if you'd like us to be having a conversation that we've made a little progress and things are a little better, then you've only got one choice on Thursday, the 6th of May, and that's to go out and vote for me. That's all I'm going to say. I can't say anything more than that, Noble, because I have a track record of making a difference already. Making a difference with weapon surrender bins. We've collected in excess of 150 knives when we emptied our bins. We've got one more bin to empty, which we will do, but we've collected that in. Now, someone said, it's all well and good doing that, but someone can go in the kitchen knife and get another kitchen drawer out and get another knife. My question is, what have you done?
Yeah, we got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, you've got to start somewhere, my brother. We've put out rather over 120 bleed control kits in the inner city areas of Birmingham with no funding. It costs money. We've trained people in the community on bleed control. Okay, we've done that. We've rallied the churches to talk and place knife crime on the agenda. Because remember, they have a call to Sunday school children.
Exactly.
Lockdown has impacted because they haven't been able to gather at church, because this taught a knife crime education. It's effective face-to-face. We have a schools program which has been effective. For example, we do prayer walks. We talk to families whilst they're out shopping on a Saturday afternoon. We support people when they have issues with the police. We support people as well who are victims of crime. We support families who have family members who have either died following police contact or have been injured following police contact. In fact, a chap was arrested last year, something that hasn't been in the media. And yes, the police did put it out, actually. They put it out before we did, where a chap had nicked baby food and wipes from Savers in Town. Wow. Passing the police station, they jumped on him and they beat him so much with a hasp, they broke his leg.
What?
And he had a compound fracture. And they took him to Peribar, blood everywhere. Then they decided to take him to hospital. When we reported it, just off the officer's body cam footage, they suspended him.
There needs to be harsher punishment for this abuse of power. Number one, it's abuse of power, and they're physically injuring, they're breaking bones and causing lacerations and stuff. If we was members of the public, just to walk up to a police officer or a policy enforcer and start to attack them, the book would be thrown at us.
Of course the book would be thrown at us. But I say zero tolerance, but it's zero tolerance on both sides. No one should be there fighting a police officer either and trying to kill him. But by the same measure, I'm not saying if someone's resisting arrest, you not to use force, but you use reasonable force. I'm not talking about 20 police officers jumping on someone, getting a hasp out, beating them, then spraying them, and then tasering them. I'm giving a mass example there, an exaggerated example. But that's how some people feel. And the police are the community, and the people are the community is supposed to be the police. Well, that is not the best example of community policing, is it?
Not at
And if
all.
we're going to build trust and confidence, we have to start being just in our actions. And that's what's key. And as I've said, for me personally, the 6th of May can be the beginning of the change, or the rendering of the white flag, meaning that I'm quite happy for things to remain as they are. Everyone's got a choice. They've got to use it.
Totally. And in regards to the voting process, how does this all take place? Is this electronic, or do you use it at the normal polling stations?
Yep, I'm glad you've asked that, because many people have asked that. And when I say many people have asked it, I mean people who are seasoned voters as well. Police and Crime Commission, you go to your local polling station. Now, we know Birmingham has no council elections. It's got some by-elections this year. Other councils do have elections. When you go into you'll get 3 papers if you've got a council election. So let's cover the 2. If you've got local elections as well, your normal ballot paper for council will be white.
Mm-hmm.
Your ballot paper for mayor will be yellow, and your ballot paper for police and crime commissioner will be green. You look down the green paper and you will see my name, because I'm only focusing on me. So Jaddoo, Jaddoo, you'll see my surname first. And against that, you'll have 2 boxes where you can mark. The first box is your first preference. You can mark anyone else for your second. You don't have to do one at all, or you can put it, so that's it. So that's that one. But then if you go where you haven't got a council election, so for example, if you live in some place like Newtown,
Mm-hmm.
and you go to the polling station, you will get a yellow form for the mayor, a green form for the PCC, and you vote in the same way.
Right. Simple as that. I don't know
Oh,
about this second choice business. What is that something new? I thought you only voted for one person.
the supplementary voting system means you can put your first and second choice, and it's what we call the single transferable vote, meaning that if you get 50, you've got to get 50% of the votes to win, the votes casted. So it's not first past the post. So if, for example, 10,000 votes are casted,
Mm-hmm.
one person gets 3,000, one person gets 2,000, and everyone gets 1,000, then the bottom ones would drop out. But then if people have marked across in the second choice, those transfer to the people left in the race.
Okay.
If no one's marked anything, then they can't be transferred.
So would it be advantageous to put a second, like, so for instance, if someone was like, maybe I like Desmond, but I like the other guy, so I'll put Desmond as the second one, would that work in your favor?
I would have to get, if I had all second choices, then I'd drop out the race.
Okay.
It has to be first choice.
First choice, yes, of course. Of course.
It has to be first choice. And if you want change, it has to be first choice anyway, because if you don't make me your first choice, you're going to end up with probably the same old issues. I mean, yesterday I had a conversation with a reporter, and he said, you don't stand a cat and nails chance. And I said, oh, thank you very much for your honesty. And he says, yeah, he says, his words, when these are his words, he says, you know what you're going to end up with, Desmond. You're going to end up with someone, a Labour or Conservative one, who's going to be useless like the last one. And I said, charming. That's charming for everybody, isn't it? But we don't need that.
No, we
That's
don't.
the point I'm making. We don't need that, and we don't have to have it.
So
You've got a choice.
It's encompassed on everybody in the community and outside of the community. If you want change, if you want real change, as we've discussed over this last just under an hour, this is the vote to make for potential real change, real quantifiable change that we can see potentially implemented within 100 days, as you've got your 100-day plan.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, from day one, we want to hit the ground running, and that's what we need to do. So I would implore people, because there are some people who have said that on WhatsApp, please vote for me. I don't do politics. I don't normally vote, but on this occasion I will. And I said, thank the Lord for that. But remember, what we have to now do is to ensure that we encourage people to go out and vote. People have to do that, have your say. If you all those people who turn up to the Black Lives Matter protests last year, right, and took one knee, you want change, then your only change is Desmond Jaddoo, and go and do it, or you've been taking one knee in vain, and we don't want to be doing that, do we?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And if we can get the turnout for all of those BLM sort of protests, if we get the turnout and that same turnout to actually, to vote in your direction, I think you'll have a landslide.
Well, let's put it like this. Black Lives Matter, I don't need to say I'm committed to Black Lives Matter. You can see the work I've been doing over the years, and that speaks for itself.
Action speaks louder than words, right?
Exactly. My work speaks for itself. So if you want someone who has got a track record of making a difference, then you know where your vote has to be.
Perfect. Perfect.
Right.
Everybody, at the sound of my voice, you know what to do. It's all on you ultimately. If we want change in the West Midlands, in Birmingham specifically, this might be the gentleman who can try and affect as much change as he possibly can within that realms. So get out there and vote, make that change. We've spoken about it a lot. We've talked the talk. This needs to change. That needs to change. We've got a real opportunity now to put someone in the position to affect real change. So it's all on you. Desmond, where's the best place people to get hold of you? What's your website details, etc.?
There's two. There's wematterparty.org, or there's desjaddoo.org.uk, or you can email me directly, desjaddoo@desjaddoo.org.uk.
Perfect.
Or just Google Desmond Jaddoo.
Yeah.
I think you get my mobile number off Google in all on.
Craziness.
Just go to Google.
The wonders of technology. Any last words before we wrap up?
Look, time to stop talking, time to start doing. If you want change, you know what to do on Thursday. Can't say anything more than that.
Simple and sweet. Make sure we do it, man. Make sure we do it, people. Community. Let's make change, man.